Hi guys, welcome to week 3 of Project OZTOG. We're glad that you joined us for the third week in a row. Let's do a quick introduction. I'm Rob, he's Chris. Let's get into the topics this week.
Let's do it.
So the first thing we're going to be looking at is creative life, anxiety, stress, and the relief that this life has. This was actually suggested by one of my close friends. So it's actually a really cool topic for discussion because it kind of impacts a lot of different creatives in different ways, whether you're a photographer, videographer, painter, sketcher, sculptor, musician. We all have some sort of, I kind of guess, these anxieties or these kind of symptoms before we perform or before the big day or before our big gig happens. So to me, it kind of is a feeling that goes hand in hand with a creative life. You know, creative life is so addictive and it's so pure and it's so kind of raw at times. But the other side of that coin is this horrible anxiety, or not so horrible, but this anxiety and this stress that life can cause.
Yeah, it's not really something many people talk about, is it?
No, everyone always kind of assumes people have it at some extent. Like, you know, even you're a musician, the butterflies before you perform, before you go on stage, you know, it drives us to really be careful about things like, why do I check the weather 5 times on the morning of a photo shoot? You know, if I'm doing a wedding that day, I start checking the weather weeks out from the wedding, a fortnight out, probably I start checking the weather forecast for the following wedding or whatever it is. You know, guitarists have multiple set of strings in their bags, multiple plectrums, multiple drumsticks. You know, it's just all about being prepared. And those kind of triggers have taught us that over time. I think there's a lot to be said for that, opposed to just rocking up, winging it on the day and being super confident and just trying to, fluff your way through it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I
said, kind of something that I was going to say, I think that's kind of something that, it's kind of overlooked a lot of the time. So many people jump to the end result and go, these are the photos that I took. Look at how amazing they are. Look at how great I am. This is the camera that I'm shooting with. But you don't really see or hear about that prior preparation beforehand.
No.
For example, going out there and doing a scout of the location or having a look around for different angles that you can shoot from. It's kind of something that people just kind of overlook as part of the process and forget about it. But I think it's really great to sort of talk about it. And what is your process when it comes to these sorts of things, Rob? You mentioned that you check the weather about 1 million times before a shoot. What are some of the things that you do?
It really depends on kind of what the shoot is. So if it is a family portrait shoot, I already know what venues around where I shoot that I like to use. So generally what I will do is I'll book the gig. I'll have a quick look around if I haven't, if I'm shooting
somewhere that you haven't shot before.
Yeah, if I haven't shot there for a little bit, I'll go down and I'll scope it out. So I think you have to do a recce of the site, really. I think that's this kind of, especially for weddings and stuff, you really want to do that kind of, bit of a recce to see what the grounds are like at the same time of day. And definitely for every wedding I've shot, I have always got down to the wedding venue the week before to see what the place is going to be like, to see where we're going to have those photos. You can't always get into wedding reception places or churches and stuff like that, but you know where you're going to have your set photos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I like to have those already pre-planned, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think something that helps me as well is actually going there with your camera and having a look through the lens. Whether you're actually taking photos or not, that's up to you. But for me, it's going there and actually taking some photos of just a blank space. And then getting home and you can actually review it and go, okay, this one will work well. This one probably need to look at somewhere else or doing something else or, doing something else within the edit. So I think having that sort of as part of the workflow really helps, and it helps you sort of alleviate any issues on the day, depending on what it is.
Look, I could not agree more with you, to be honest with you. So what I find is really, I always take a camera. It just helps you visualize what you're going to be able to do. I also take a mental note of the gear I'm going to need on the day. So how far it is away from the car park. Is it shaded? Is it open? Am I going to need, am I going to need 2 speed lights? Am I going to need them off camera? Am I going to need them on tripods or stands with soft boxes, for example? Am I going to need something a bit more powerful and have to bring the ranges out? Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So
I think
it's
for me, it's a very similar process. For video especially, it's always good for me to go through a shot list, and especially when I'm on location, just even take some notes on my phone
Yep.
to say, this shot for this shot, it'll take probably about 10 minutes. Even just do sort of rough timeline, so okay, by this time we'll get here. Especially if you're doing a sunset shoot, for example. By the time you get to the location, the sunset might have missed it. So if you make a sort of note of what time the sun sets, you can at least be at that location to get that shot, and you know how long that shot is going to take to get you approximately.
Yeah, 100%. Look, what the creative life kind of reminds me of, like a duck swimming, right? So the duck on the surface of the water seems really calm, beautiful, elegant. But underneath the water, the feet are going a million miles an hour, right? They stay swimming, they stay floating, right? So that's kind of what creative life is for me. Like, you kind of, above water, it seems all really lovely and beautiful and elegant. Yeah, calm and collected. But behind the surface, you've got this having to compete for gigs. You're competing for dollars, basically. You're trying to keep customers happy, trying to deliver on time, trying to make sure your edits are done, and then you have to worry about, okay, what's the weather doing this week? Do I have to move the shoot? I have to reschedule. Can I fit it in? Where can I fit it in? So there's a whole lot of other stuff that happens behind the scenes that no one will ever know about. And I think a level of anxiety around that. Yeah, well, I think a level of anxiety around that is actually pretty good. And then you got things like the equivalent of writer's block, I guess, as well. So photographers get photographers block, musicians get it, writers obviously get it. But it's about learning, having enough faith in your craft to know you're going to get past that. And that's not, that's not forever. And that's why we have things like redundancies built in. That's why we have spare strings and stuff like that. Because we know that, we don't want that anxiety to be debilitating. We just want that to be part of the creative process. Because when you, say, in my case, when you deliver that video or deliver those final products, those final photos, it's amazing. That feeling is just a rush. Even when you're shooting, like, I kind of get lost in the moment when I shoot. And that's all I really concentrate on, right? You don't really think of anything else. Like, I've been on a trip, and it was in Chile, and we were shooting at this lake, and breakfast was happening. By the time I realized what time it was, I'd been there for an hour and a half and totally missed breakfast. So
that's the thing.
To get lost.
And that's why, for me, like, I always find it's good to have that shot list, because you can at least go, okay, well, we have this time to get there, and we have this time to get back if you need to get there and back again. But yeah, I think it is good to an extent to get lost in it, because that means you're sort of really deep in concentration. You're knowing what you're going to do and what you're going to shoot next. Obviously, in your case, you probably be a bit more careful so you don't miss breakfast.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to miss breakfast, too many breakfasts, but it's just easy to get lost in that kind of moment with photography. And I think that's kind of, that's really a beautiful thing about being a creative and that creative lifestyle, that ability to get lost in it. But, it's just so pure, like I said, so pure and addictive. And that's what really drives us to keep on going. And it's not about the bit that we have anxiety about, the money and all the other stuff, that bit of life. That's all fairly normal pressures that everyone has.
Yeah.
But that creative process is just encompasses it.
Yeah, 100%.
It kind of brings us to our next topic. So, writing a blog in 2021. So it's kind of an extension of that creative process. What do you think about writing a blog in 2021? Is it worth writing a blog?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up, because it's kind of the opposite end of what we were just talking about, isn't it? It's all the sort of pre-production stuff, and then writing a blog is like your post-production stuff. Generally speaking, I guess you could do it pre-production, but generally speaking, it's post-production. Look, in my opinion, I think 100% yes, it is. If nothing else, it helps with SEO, traffic to your site. It means people are, especially if you're doing like your keyword research, and you're going, okay, what are people actually searching? What are people wanting to know answers for? Or even if you just write about your experience with your recent shoot or something that you found interesting, it's so vast what you can write on. And it also means that you're sort of flexing that creative muscle in the downtime when maybe it's not so busy. But what are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I actually think this is a really interesting topic, because if you had asked me before this year, I probably would have said it wasn't worth doing. To be brutally honest, Yeah, well, to be brutally honest, I think there was, how much content is on the web. So I kind of
Mm,
looked at it and went, wow, there's so much content on the web already. How am I going to be enriching this? Can I enrich
mm,
this? And do I really want to take on another project where I'm going to put time and effort into it that no one's really going to see it?
yeah.
Um, I'm not a great writer. I'm a photographer. So how do
Yeah.
I translate that into a written piece that people are going to find engaging, and basically find online? Well, what changed my mind was I learned a bit more about exactly, SEO.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, the blogs can help SEO. And then, beyond that, COVID hit again. So we're back in lockdown.
Yeah.
So obviously that's taken away a lot of our creative outlets. So I figured,
Mm,
look, I tried the right one. And it actually turned out really, really well. And I actually really enjoyed the process. So I actually found it was an enriching kind of experience. So, you're providing this content, not just rehashing content that you've already read or something else. You're adding your own personal spin to it. And I think that was really
yeah.
empowering.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
you can't
Definitely.
be out there creating at the front lines per se, but,
Yeah.
from your place, wherever you are, your desk or your keyboard, you're putting together a resource that people can use at a later date that you can use. Like if you run workshops, for example, that could become content for the workshop. That's like a handout so
Yeah.
people can use. So you kind of really, really already getting a head start on future projects anyway. So I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. And if not, you can always write, like I said, you can always write about your experience at something. If you've been out shooting on a shoot, or if you found something really interesting, you can write about that. So then you can then, 2 years later, however long later, you can kind of look back and go, okay, this is where I started from. Look at how much better I am today. And the same thing with photography and any of these sort of things. It's really nice to sort of look back and go, okay, especially when you're stuck and you feel like you might have a bit of a block going on, you can at least look back and go, okay, well, we've come such a long way since where we started from. So I think
Yeah.
that's also kind of nice as well.
Look, 100%. I could not agree more. I think really it provides an extra creative outlet for you, but also
Mm,
beyond that, I think it's an opportunity to engage with your audience, but
yes.
also enrich the content on your website. Everyone knows when you go to a photographer's website that they probably have a gallery of some sort, some pictures, some contact information, um, a gallery where they might deliver photos to customers. Maybe you can buy a few landscapes, and generally that's really it. Like, there's not much beyond that. And
Yeah.
then you have the guys who have
And
blogs, so you spend more time on the page. You start clicking through the blogs and reading about them. So I think
yeah.
that's really just another creative outlet, but also an enriching one. It enriches your website and enriches your content, but
Yeah, it kind of
also
gives a nice personal touch, doesn't it? Whereas
yeah,
if you just have like gallery full of images, it's just that, a gallery full of images.
yeah.
Who's a person shooting the images? Even if you are the person in the photos, how is someone going to know who you are, outside of your images?
Well, that's right.
So
It
if you
adds.
hear a nice kind of voice and through your blogs, and it kind of gives that nice personal touch.
Yeah, actually, I really like that. It gives you a voice.
Yeah.
Um, so it creates that kind of starts from creating that rapport process before people have even
Mm.
met you. It
Yeah,
lets people,
100%.
yeah, it lets people hear things from your voice, and starts creating the rapport creating process, which is really difficult as well. Especially if people are coming with nothing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I actually found that really surprising. That I would actually like that. So
Yeah. No, that's
yeah,
good.
I think that's a really,
Yeah, that's cool.
really cool process and extension of the really creative lifestyle, to be honest.
Yeah. Speaking of creative lifestyles, so obviously one of the big sort of talking points, I hear a lot of new and even, somewhat pro photographers or mid-level, I guess, photographers. There's always that sort of debate about whether you should do free work for exposure. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously that's quite a highly debated topic amongst amongst any sort of new member community, especially with photography. People were saying don't do free shoots. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I think there's always a a happy medium, to be honest with you. I think, like, so TFP, time for prints, is what they're called, or what have you, or time for video, whatever it may be. I think there's a real kind of stigma around it. Do you know what I mean? People kind of look at it and look down upon it and frown upon it. And
I think it has its place.
Yeah, I agree with some of that. Like, I would agree with, you shouldn't give, if someone's making money from it, you shouldn't give away your services. Definitely. Like, if someone's making money from it, then they should be paying you, or they should be paying some, like, maybe they can't afford to pay market value. They can't afford to pay a going hourly rate, but they can afford to pay something. And if they're making money, so be it. And I think you look through certain pages on Facebook and all those type of things where people advertise for work, you will see that. And there's clearly companies taking advantage of creatives to some extent, trying to get work for free. In saying that, though, creative projects where people are just doing it to flex their creative muscle is phenomenal. It can be really, really enriching. You have, you can cross-pollinate with other creatives. You can build rapport with other creatives and start your own network of creatives, which I think in itself is hugely empowering in a creative field, and you might work with a really, really good makeup artist, and down the track, you can end up doing weddings together because you can refer on an amazing videographer, and you can refer that person on. So definitely,
I think that's a really good point. Like, being able to have that sort of network, and because so much of the time, how often do you go to a job where they need either a makeup artist, they need a stylist, they need someone who knows how to do clothing or something? Like, so much of the time, these are the things that people want as an all-in-one solution. So having those contacts and having someone where you can go, hey, I need a makeup artist, I need a stylist, I need whatever it is, and
100%.
just being able to make some calls and go, to your client, hey, I have this makeup artist on hand, they're 10 minutes away, do you want them in?
Yeah, and look, I've done photography gigs, and they wanted videographers on the gig as well. And I've been able to go, look, this guy is really good. You can give him a call and ask him. I can reach out to him, find out his rates for you. And they've been really appreciative of that. Even if they don't go with the person, which by all means, if the other person has a rate and they don't, and it's, doesn't match what their needs are, or they're already booked, they may go somewhere else. But it's being able to refer that onwards, that really strengthens your network, but also allows you to pull kind of other kind of ropes and strings if you need to help yourself out in the future. Definitely the makeup artists, stylists, even venues. Like, you get to know certain venues that way. Like, someone might say, yeah, come and shoot my venue for me. And then the track, you may be looking for a wedding venue. So that really helps. So definitely, I think you got to be careful with that type of stuff to make sure you're not being taken advantage of. And I think there's definitely people in the industry who would take advantage of people, unfortunately. Or maybe not within the industry, from outside, who try to take advantage of the creative industry.
That's something I was going to say, to be honest. I think it's about being able to know where to draw that line. Because obviously, as a new photographer, someone who's just been for the first time, maybe they're taking a few portraits on their phone and like it, I wouldn't expect them to go out there and say, my wedding rate is $10,000. I don't think that's right, and I don't think that's fair unless they're like the best iPhoneographer in the world. But I think being able to have some sort of free sessions to at least get in kind of exposure, or a decent sort of portfolio more, definitely really helps, especially when you're starting out. But once you have that kind of look, and once you have that kind of portfolio behind you, you know what you're running and what you're shooting and what you're capable of. I think that's definitely where you sort of start to need to consider putting a price on your services, but putting a reasonable price on it.
Yeah, look, definitely.
If no one's ever heard of you, they're not going to pay you $10,000 to do a wedding. Even if you take the best images in the world. Well,
I think it's always like, I think we got to remember that everyone started from somewhere, and doing that type of TFP work and working with other creators for free, even doing lower paid jobs, or jobs that may be lower paid for free, working for charities or companies that are starting out. It's a good place to cut your teeth. Do you know what I mean? And I think everyone's worked for free at some stage in their career to get experience and stuff like that. The worst, same side of the or other side of the coin, rather. If
Mm.
someone comes out and from day one wants to charge 5 to 10 grand for a wedding, that's fine. That's on them. Everyone should be able to set their own rate. And if they think they're worth 10 grand, stick to it. There's nothing to say they might not get bookings. Like if you feel that the work you've produced up to that point and for going full-time professional, you want to charge 10K, great. All the power in the world to them. 100%. You know, by the same token, there's people who start off and might not know the value yet and charge $500 a wedding. So definitely, I think there's a happy medium there. And I'm not saying you should go out and work for free. I'm not saying you should charge 10 grand. But what I'm saying is that, you all have a value. So trying to establish what that value is, and that's really difficult depending where your style is, what market you're trying to take. What kind of other areas, what areas you're shooting in, for example, what your market is, and what type of jobs, are you a photographer who doesn't want to do much editing? So you really after those event photos where you come in, run and gun, deliver, and you're done. Or you're a photographer who wants to come in, spend a bit more time and basically, do the $10,000 weddings. So I guess that's really, up for the debate, but I think it's really, really worth creative projects. I think are worth a stack in the industry still. There's still heaps of value, but as long as people aren't being taken advantage of, and you see it all the time where even other creatives are being kind of not tricked, but they try to get other people working for someone who else is planning something. You see that quite a little bit as well. But
you're talking about like other like higher end photographers taking advantage of like newer photographers, for example.
Yeah, I think you see that. And that's, there's mentoring and stuff built into that. I think that's a really cool relationship to have someone who charges that 10 grand and you can go second shoot for a while, even if not being paid, but it's just really good to get that exposure and stuff like that from the more experienced photographer. Because that's, you don't get that experience regularly. But what I think you'll see is like, company A approaches photographer, company A goes, oh, it'd be really cool to get a videographer. But as you're working for free, can we get them to work for free? And then you find out as for their social media page and an online magazine that company sells, for example. So really, it's like influencers, take some amazing photos and the person puts it up on an account that they get paid for access for. So everyone should be paid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
does that include say a larger account reposting smaller accounts Instagram photo, or like does that sort of exposure count as payment or not really?
Yeah, look, it's the same even now. When the account picks up one of my photos, for example, I'm always happy and always grateful to have my photo picked up. If I put a photo online on Instagram, for example, I know that photo becomes, whatever it is for anyone to kind of consume. If someone wants to repost that, as long as they credit me, I don't mind. Actually, I wish that happens more often. Do you know what I mean? You got to get your, and that will help you grow your Instagram account and stuff like that. But I don't like it where you see people who are clearly working for free when it's for an online magazine or an OnlyFans account or a paid gig. Where
what if they use it in like a marketing like a advertising campaign and they're making money from that? Does that still count?
No, I think that crosses that line.
Yeah, it crosses that line. So if it was just purely for posting and they weren't making any sort of additional income off it, that's fine. But then if they were doing it in some sort of advertising campaign or something to that extent, that's where we draw the line.
Definitely. Like if I'm shooting with a particular camera and I tag that camera on my Instagram thing, that company picked up my photo and wanted to post it. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay. Because I shoot with that camera. They post all that stuff anyway. They're not really making any money off it, additional to what they already make anyhow. That's really cool. And I think there's a level of prestige around that. If I went out and shot, an awesome photo of a Ferrari, for example, flying down the highway, awesome, or from a race day, great photo. And if I post it on my Instagram account and I find out, a week later, Ferrari's found the photo and posted it on their latest magazine or latest brochure.
In the advertising campaign or something.
Yeah, and it's taken the photo straight off Instagram, put it straight to print or straight to their latest advertising campaign. and there's no credit or no asking about that, yeah, I think there's a problem. Maybe if they ask you, that's different again. That's up to the individual creative, but just blatantly ripping off someone's image, I think is a little bit too far.
Yeah, agreed. I think as long as they credit you, and depending on what they're using it for, if they're using it for some sort of marketing purposes or some sort of additional income, I think that's kind of where you draw the line, and that'll come down to the individual. But I think if you're using it just to repost, then all power to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that can be really beneficial for both parties. So there's no hassle in that. So the best advice I can give anyone, just remember that everyone starts from somewhere. So whether that be photography, videography, makeup artists and stuff like that, we all have to get experience. No one starts from day one with 5 years or 6 years experience. So just bear that in mind when you see creatives out there trying to it's graft away and make a start and make a name for themselves in the industry. It's not super easy at times either.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, look, I think that covers off the topics we wanted to cover off for this episode. As we said at the start, our very first topic, the creative life issue and kind of the anxiety and stress around that, was given to us by one of our listeners and one of our friends and followers. So by all means, if we can keep that going, that would be fantastic. I am very hopeful that we will have a third on the panel next week. So that'll be interesting. It'll be a new bit of a new format. So we've got two photographers we've got two photographers who are interested at the moment. So that'll be really cool, and that we possibly line up one of those for next week if it all works out. So make sure you stick around and check out next week as well. But yeah, for the time being,
don't forget, we are on Spotify and Amazon Prime Music as well. So
yes,
don't forget to check out Project OZTOG.
Project OZTOG is now officially a podcast as well on those platforms. It's very, very cool. Our YouTube videos as well drop every Thursday at lunchtime. Saturday mornings, the podcast will drop. Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit staggered, but make sure to check him out. Follow us on each platform, ring the bell and all that fun stuff as well. Give us a thumbs up and make sure you comment. Give us any issues or topics you want us to cover off, because that's what really makes this panel. It's a creative panel. So we'll give us our best shot. Like if it's, if there's a whole bunch of music questions, then we'll get a guy who plays music or a musician or what have you, or a painter or a sculptor or something like that. We'll try to actively find those people for us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. But thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. Take it easy. Catch you next time on Project OZTOG. See you later.